The Ralph Miller Show is made possible by a grant from Equitable Savings and Loan Association.
Good evening and welcome to the Ralph Miller Show. When we talked with you 2 weeks ago, Oregon State was 5-0, and since that time, the Beavers have won 5 more. 3 in the Far West Classic and in Pac-10 games against Arizona State and Arizona. Ralph, you have to be happy because indeed the Oregon Express is rolling.
Well, let's put it this way, Pat. An old adage, so far so good. Reasonably well pleased with the progress. Unfortunately, I know that there are at least 16 more games to go before we get out of the conference race. So we still have to wait and see what's going to happen.
The Classic and the 2 Pac-10 games, what stand out as the highlight for you?
Well, I was very pleased with the 2 games that we played, Northwestern and Rhode Island, in the Classic. I thought we did a good job here. However, in the 3rd game against the Ducks, I thought we took too much for granted, did not play well. Then had a little repetition of history. We go down, I thought did about as well as we could against Arizona State under the circumstances. Then felt that, oh, well, that was the big test. Would be all right against little old Arizona, and it was 11-0 before they even decided that, hey, the other team wanted to play. So that's one of the things that we're going to have to fight all the way through, but we are making some progress, so that I'm not really too unhappy.
Outside of the first 3 minutes against Arizona, the team seems to have improved its defense measurably.
Yes, after the 3rd game, which was Portland State, we had really 1 week plus most of the next week, and that entire time was honed in on our defensive work. So I think we did improve it all the way through. Even our rebounding is improving. So I certainly cannot complain a bit about the quick turnover of the defense, because it was kind of sad at first. But I think we played very well ever since that 3rd game. But I'm still concerned about the use of our offense. We've got too much talent and too much ability to use unwisely. And against the Ducks, very, very poor choice, very poor organization. Did the same thing again when we went to Arizona. So we've got a lot of work to do here yet.
What would be the keys in improving the Oregon State offense?
Well, first of all, to remember where my catalyst is and where they're supposed to put the ball, and finally decide that we don't really shoot too well from 30 feet. We're not bad from 18, but we've got to go right at that 15 to 18-foot mark. That's our good shooting range. If we put the ball in, comes back out, we'll be there. But if we're just going to gamble, we can get 30-foot shots, you know, anytime. And then pro's the only one to give an extra point for a 30-foot shot. That just counts 2 in our game. We don't get many of those.
Your catalyst is 6'10.5" center Steve Johnson. He played perhaps his best game as an Oregon Stater, at least offensively and rebounding-wise, against Arizona on a night you needed it.
Well, that's true. Of course, Steve, I thought, put it nicely. They're not too tough defensively inside, and they gave him a lot of room, and he had another good performance. So I've said so many times, so hey, he gets the ball in close. Better watch out.
Ralph Miller said at the beginning of the season that one of the keys to Oregon State's success this year would be how well the Beavers adjusted to the loss of Dwayne Allen and Tony Martin and played defense. And one of the keys to Oregon State's excellent defense is a freshman, a rarity in Coach Miller's long years in basketball. Charlie Sitton has come in and been a solid rebounder, 3.5 a game. He's scoring at an almost 8-point-per-game clip, and he's also shooting with good selection, more than 60% from the floor and almost 70% from the line. Earlier, we talked with Charlie. Let's meet him now. Charlie, talk a little bit about the transition from McMinnville High School to here at Oregon State and Ralph Miller's program.
Well, the basketball is a lot more demanding. The practices are a lot harder and a lot more physical. There's a lot more pushing and shoving, and it's just a lot more demanding, and it takes a lot more out of your body to play this type of ball around here where you're picking up full court and pressure all the time. I think that's the biggest transition, is just playing on the bigger court and with more physical play, you know.
How about the change from being a high post, low post with Nick Robertson at McMinnville, where you often were double or triple teamed, to really facing now a one-on-one situation, often facing the basket?
That's very true. That's kind of been a big change for me, but I played in various all-star games around that really helped me out as far as that and got me prepared for this. It's still a change for me, and it's still something that I need to be working on all the time, because I am used to posting up a lot. But in Ralph's game, I've only posted up a few times. Like in practices, he just tried me down at the low post. But most of the time, I've been playing a forward high post and looking into Steve most of the time.
The first time I heard about you was when you were still in the 8th grade in McMinnville, and I had a friend up there that talked then about this young man that was going to help McMinnville into high school greatness in the state. When did you begin to develop the basketball talents that you eventually possessed as a 3-time All-Stater?
Well, I don't know. I've always liked to play the game. Ever since I was in the 4th grade, I started playing, and I was always the biggest kid in our class. And I always played the game, and when we got to 7th grade, there was a bunch of kids that came into the junior high, and we went undefeated for 3 years. And it's just come along to where we worked together, and we just played hard together, and it was really a lot of fun. So I think that's the biggest thing, was we just started working together as a team probably about in the 7th grade, and just went on through high school and all, as just playing. And we really had a lot of good times together, a bunch of guys in my class.
At that age, did you spend a lot of time all summer long or 3 or 4 hours a day playing basketball?
No, I just practiced during practices, and then we might play after school or something, just pick up games. But most of the time, during the summer, I'd maybe go to a camp for a week or two, and then most of the rest of the time I just work on our farm and all, and just kind of take time off.
The recruiting battle for you was probably unprecedented in the state, with a possible exception of what happened regarding Richard Washington. How about that in retrospect now and your choice of Oregon State University?
Well, I had a lot of good experience with recruiting. I met a lot of neat people about it, and got to see a lot of the countryside, and I really enjoyed it, and we set down enough rules right off the start, to where people respected them, and nobody really bothered us about it. And it was really, pretty good, and I pretty much had it set down to 4 schools there by the time my senior year started, so I pretty much had most of the pressure shut off by then.
Almost any time somebody comes into a program, there are players who are already at that school that seem to make a big difference. Was that true here?
Yeah, that's very true. When I looked to come down here, I knew I was going to be playing with guards like, with Ray and Mark, and I knew we were going to have a very good team down here next year, or this year, after playing with them or watching them play last year. And I knew that it was going to be a good ball club, and I could learn a lot by just playing with them and practicing with them. And as right now, it really has. It's paid off for me, because every day I pick up a little bit more and a little here and a little there.
Must be kind of exciting to go out on the floor at Gill Coliseum or recently at the Far West Classic and receive the great response that you do from the people of Oregon.
Yeah, it's quite a thrill, because I didn't really realize how much they paid attention, to the Oregon ball players, but it's really nice, to get that kind of response, after I did stay here and play. And with the number of Oregon ball players we do have on the team, I just hope that other players in Oregon look at it and kind of use an example, because we do have just as good caliber ball players in Oregon as anywhere else if we just can put them together.
Thank you, Charlie. When people ask me, Ralph, whether or not you were going to retire in the next several years, I used to tell them, well, if Charlie Sitton comes to Oregon State, Ralph will coach for at least 4 more seasons. He's quite a player.
Well, that was a guaranteed proposition, but Charlie is a fine young man, and I think anybody who hasn't graduated from high school is listening. I hope you pay heed to what I'm going to say, because Charlie is a basketball player. He's a coach's player. He's not an outstanding physical type of person. Mm-hmm. He just does everything well enough to beat you. And the reason he does that is because he is the best defensive player as a freshman I ever had, particularly for a tall youngster. He understands defense. If you understand defense, then you become a far better offensive player. But unfortunately, too many youngsters try it the other way. They learn defense last, if ever, and try to concentrate offense. It should be a reverse procedure if you want to be a fine all-around basketball player, and Charlie certainly is that.
One of the cornerstones of the Ralph Miller offense is what's called the jump stop. And on our coaches clinic tonight, Ralph Miller will talk about that technique.
First, before we get right to the jump stop, and it is very important, you've got to come back and say, now look, good individual skill execution, regardless, primarily rests upon body balance and body control. Now, these are two requirements that must operate together, like two peas in a pod. They just cannot be separated. Now, balance, body control, depend primarily on the ability to stop, particularly when running or moving at a fast pace. Now, for the most part, offensive footwork involves running. And this is particularly true in executing our offense. So if you're going to run, you've got to be able to stop, and stop with your body under control and almost perfect balance. And for offense, we recommend only the jump stop. There is a stride stop, like a 1, 2, or a walking stop. The jump stop, you can see on the film here, is merely jumping into the air and then coming down on both feet. And the human body is built so that when you jump to your stop, your knees bend easier. If they bend enough, then the buttocks drops lower and acts as a third leg of a stool to give you balance. And unfortunately, too many young people do not realize the importance of this jump stop. And we recommend it as the only single stop for offensive work. We've got a lot of good reasons, just like we state, how the body is built. Now, in the execution of the jump stop, if you'll note here, the weight is primarily on the back foot. In the stride stop, it's on the front foot, and the nose and the body come forward. So it's something that anyone could learn to do, and note the stop and coming right up to your shot. Now, you'll see this in some of these action shots. There's Mark on his jump stop right into a shot. Now, a person should be able to shoot, pass, or drive the instant that he catches the ball. So the jump stop applies not just when you have the ball, but now on reception, you should have already come to your jump stop. Now in this particular drill, they're coming to a jump stop, executing the high pass. Now, one thing that most people don't realize is that if you teach people the jump shot, very, very few people can handle the zone defense if you're smart enough to put the jump shot together with the jump stop, because then you always can change your body position while you're executing the stop. You can turn any way you want so that you're in line with the basket. You got whichever foot you want forward. Take your choice. Now, this drill is the one that we primarily start you out. You don't see it right here, but in the background they're still executing the jump stop, pivoting, and passing. And then they will do the same thing with their shot. Now, you'll see a jump stop. This is with the fast break drill. And if a person stops on offense, you have to understand that that individual has a second or two advance notice that he wants to stop. The defense does not know that. And the advantage to stop, pass, be under control, makes all the difference in the world, and particularly from the old standpoint, are you ready to shoot when you get the ball? Can you pass? And that's the way we go. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll always teach that jump stop shoot. I start that. We have our camps, you know, in the summer. And this is the first thing we try to teach kids that are 8, 9, and 10 years old, because if they get the jump stop down, then they have body balance, they have control of their body most of the time, and that's what makes you a basketball player, because then you can do anything you want in the game and do it very well.
You also emphasize that you not only have the opportunity to dribble, to shoot, or to pass, but if you decide to shoot when you come to the jump stop, you shoot often when you're open without the defensive pressure.
You save time. You see, anybody can be wide open if you can jump, stop, shoot in 1 second. No defensive person in the world can recover that fast. Now, if you have to stop, change your foot, get ready to shoot, now there's a second or 2 seconds that allows the defense to recover. Now, if you let that happen, zones kill you. That's why zones don't bother us too much. You put the ball in deep, bring it back out to your short shooting range, you're ready to get it, you're in position once you catch the ball. It's a 1 second shot, and the game's over right there.
Best example of a recent player I can think of who improved his technique and improved measurably is Jeff Stout.
Jeff took a long time, but he's coming. Really, this is the main reason that Ray Bloom shot up so quick.
Right.
He mastered the jump shot, not the jump shot, but the jump stop from the passing standpoint, from the shooting standpoint, and as a result he has excellent body control. And I really think that learning to use this stop was one of the greatest assets that perhaps Ray ever picked up from us, and it's going to do him a lot of good in the future.
Oregon State assistant coach Jimmy Anderson began this season his 20th year with the Oregon State program. His roots at Oregon State go back to the Slats-Gill era, 1957, 58, and 59. He was on an all-Far West Classic team, helped the Beavers win Far West Classic titles, and played with some of Oregon's all-time greats, including Dave Gamby and Lee Harmon. Tonight, let's meet Oregon State senior assistant coach Jimmy Anderson.
Run your back door, too, if there's pressure. Split it. Keep working, black shirts. Give us a look. Hustle, hustle.
My basic duties as assistant coach at Oregon State in the basketball program basically evolves around three basic chores. I'd say the actual helping with the coaching on the floor, the recruiting of future student athletes, and the basic idea of going out on the road and scouting opponents.
That's better, Danny. Now you had it. You were right there looking him in the eye. That's what we need.
We consider ourselves a family. We are working towards certain goals. Educationally speaking, the goal is to do a good job every day in your classroom, and eventually after a 4-year period feel that you've received an education and received a degree. Basketball speaking, each individual we try to work with to reach their ultimate potential, fit this into a team concept of basketball. I've always felt that probably, other than maybe the head job in one of the Pac-10 schools, that Oregon State assistant job is probably the second best position on the West Coast. I just love it here. I think the school is great. The basketball program tradition has always been great, so I think to me, it's not second banana. To me, it's right at the top.
Jimmy Anderson, he's a big part of that Oregon State tradition and certainly of your program, Ralph.
Well, Jim's been around a lot longer than I have as far as Oregon State is concerned, and it was just my good fortune that Jim decided to remain as an assistant coach when I took the job 11 years ago, because he is such a fine person. He's a very good coach. He's dedicated. He's a loyal type of person, very enthusiastic, as you can see, and I don't really think anything nicer could have happened to me in coming to this institution than inheriting Jim Anderson.
He is an exceptional recruiter, too, and I guess the ideal recruiter when you say a nice guy representing a university and program well.
Yes, I don't think that he has ever goofed once in making a fine impression on the athlete and the parents. Now, that doesn't mean we get them all, but he certainly does a marvelous job in his recruiting. He knows his basketball. He selects the people that are going to do a good job for us, and then when he goes to talk to the coach, talk to the parents, talk to the kid, he's a good salesman.
One of the people that Jimmy Anderson and the Oregon State staff actively recruited this past year was Lester Connor, an outstanding junior college player from California and originally from Oakland. And Lester has stepped into the Oregon State program and game by game is making progress. He's now averaging almost 7 points and 3 rebounds a game. His passing has been excellent in the last 5 ball games, and he also is shooting well, almost 50% from the floor and 71% from the line. On tonight's second profile, let's meet another key newcomer in the Oregon State program, Lester Connor. Lester, recently I saw an article in the Morning Oregonian in which a Los Angeles Lakers scout said that he really liked your play in the Far West Classic, had liked you when you were in junior college, and felt you were a much more controlled player now than you were 2 years ago. How about your thoughts on coming into the Oregon State game plan of Ralph Miller and maybe a change in your play?
Well, when I was a freshman in Los Medanos Junior College, I was a little reckless. I was just coming out of high school, and I didn't have that much sense about the game because I started playing fairly late. You know, Charlie started playing when he was in the 4th grade. I didn't really start thinking about playing basketball till I was in the 10th grade. So there were some things that I had to learn, and when I got to junior college, I didn't learn them until my sophomore year. That's one reason why I chose to stay in there for 2 years instead of leaving after my freshman year.
Ralph Miller talks about avoiding the bounce pass, the importance of the jump stop, the emphasis on passing and catching. How about adjusting to his fundamentals of basketball, which he's had his formulas chiseled in stone for 3 decades?
Well, it's hard for me because I've played for 2 years under a different coach that, you know, doesn't really stress the things that Ralph Miller stresses. And it's a big adjustment for me because I've been playing for him for 2 years, and now I have to, you know, adjust my style of play. But each game, I'm gradually doing that, and I'm feeling fairly comfortable under his system.
Were you nervous in the first couple of ball games, especially the opener against BYU?
Against BYU, I was nervous. You know, all those people, and they were screaming and standing on their feet. It was our first game. Brigham Young had played a couple of games already, and they had, you know what they wanted to work on. We didn't know what we wanted to work on. That was our first game, and it was new to me. And he gave me a chance, and, you know, I didn't adjust the way he expected me to, so I'm, you know, just gradually learning right now.
I can't recall Ralph Miller ever keeping a scholarship open as long as he did for you, and the recruiting battle for you nationwide was a very, very fevered one. How about some reaction to that and your thoughts on attending Oregon State?
Well, at first, when Oregon State was presented to me, I thought he wanted me for a backup guard for Mark and Ray. And a junior college player, when he's coming out of junior college, he doesn't really want to sit on the bench. He would like an opportunity to start or be starting once he leaves junior college. And I scratched Oregon State off the list and continued on looking at other schools. And then Coach Anderson presented to me the fact that they had a small forward spot open, which is what Dwayne Allen played. And then we started thinking about that, and me and my coach communicated a little bit more on that position. And it seemed kind of interesting. And the position that Dwayne Allen played is spread out. They had player 1-3, a 1-2-2 with Steve and Charlie down low. So, you know, the guards are fairly in the same position, and it seemed interesting, and I liked it.
Corvallis, Oregon's a long way from Oakland, California. How about your reaction to the community and to the campus and what you're doing academically?
Well, the community is a lot different. You know, it's more peaceful than Oakland. And the Corvallis is a little bit more slower than where I'm from. I'm from a large metropolitan area down there, and we have San Francisco and Oakland and Hayward, you know, which is a lot of exciting places. And you don't have that much to do here, but then again, you can get into your studies by not having the distractions away from you. You can get into your studies and concentrate on basketball and things like that.
Has learning to play defense the way Ralph wants it played been the most difficult transition here?
Well, when I first came into Oregon State, people thought I couldn't play defense by what the newspapers was printing. And, you know, I was a fairly good defensive player when I was in junior college. And, you know, I think the fact that I'm small and pretty quick, I use that to my advantage. And the coach likes that. He thinks I'm a pretty good defensive ball player now.
Here you are now on a team that's ranked in the nation's top 3, and at the end of the year, maybe one of the Final 4 in the nation. That has to be exciting.
I chose my schools to be in a situation like that. I knew they were going to be good, and I knew they had a lot of good ball players coming in, and they played as a team. I seen them when they played Cal last year, and they beat Cal by 31, and they just passed the ball and did really great. And, you know, that was one of the reasons why I looked at them. We play well together as a team. And if we keep playing well like we did in the Far West Classic, we go a long way.
Thank you, Lester.
Thank you.
Ralph, is it sometimes difficult when you bring a junior college star into your program where he suddenly has to become a, let's say, a lesser light in a team program?
Well, there's not much difference than bringing in a freshman to a certain degree. Yes, this young man has played 2 more years of basketball, but on the other hand, he's been playing in an entirely different system. So now he has to come in and adjust himself to the organization that you're using, both offensively and defensively. Now, as Lester said, he didn't think he was a bad defensive player when he came here. He isn't. He's got all the tools. But on the other hand, we were asking him to go out and pressure a ball. Now, in his previous experience, he was on the back line of pressure defenses and didn't have to work that hard. And he got a chance to maybe take life easier for a while. So now he's fitting in here. He's getting the idea of our passing concept, and he's actually even learning to use the jump stop now, which that was a hard thing for him to get a hold of because he's a great floater. He likes to go through the air like the man on the flying trapeze. But he's made great progress now, and he's really coming strong.
Stanford on Friday night, California on Saturday. First, let's talk about the Cardinals.
Well, the Cardinals looked like they weren't going to have too much of a ball club. until they played California just last week, and they should have won the game. They actually had them down and lost it just in the last minute. Now, the only thing I don't like about the Stanford team is last year when we went down to Stanford, we were rated #2 in the nation right behind DePaul. Well, we were rated #2 in the nation right behind DePaul, and as a result, we played a 2-point victory down there, 18-16. And I don't hope that part. I hope that that part of history does not repeat itself. And we'll try to make Stanford play our type of game. But although they had a bad start, they're going to be a good ball club, and the progress they've made in the last couple of, say, weeks shows this. And we might just well get used to the fact that as long as we're defending champion, as long as we're a ranked team, everybody we play is going to give us all we want.
After Oregon State, UCLA, and Arizona State, the team in the conference that concerns you the most is California.
Well, they're the black sheep, or I should say, the dark horse. That's the title that all of the coaches gave them. And they have 2 people. McNamara, big transfer at the center position, good big player. And then they had Singleton, had a red shirt because of an injury last year. They're back, along with a very, very good young crop of recruits a year ago. And so as a result, they've lived up to that reputation that they are the dark horse. In fact, they may be more than the dark horse. They may be a real tough contender because they've lost only 1 game to date. And in fact, that's the best start that a California team has had since 1959. So everybody is getting hot about their basketball down there. It's back to the old tradition of Pete Newell and some of the great winning years that he had. And this is a young team, not as well experienced as some, but physically, I think they can match almost every team in the conference as far as size, quickness, and this type of thing. They don't have quite as much experience as some of us has, but still, I think they're going to be measured this year.
One of the things that we're giving you, the viewer, a chance to do is ask questions to Coach Ralph Miller, and if you have any, you can write to Ralph Miller, The Fans Ask, in care of Gill Coliseum on the Oregon State campus. The zip code here is 97331. Ralph, the question that is asked most often of me is what your strategy is in the last minute or minute and a half of a close ball game. When do you decide to stall? When do you decide to go into what you call the control game?
Well, let's differentiate there and get the wording right. We never stall.
All right.
We either play control, either we're always looking for the score. Unless we have so many points, like 7 or 8 points and less than a minute to go, then we do go into dead control. Now, dead control is what you call the stall. And the only reason it's dead control, because if we go into that, you're not supposed to shoot, and if you do, you're liable to be dead. That's just how it works. And so we never try to stall. We always try to control the ball a little longer, make the defense play a little longer till they get tired so that they will give us an easier shot. And it varies. We played control offense basically all the time against Arizona State, and then we didn't do too much with it with Arizona until the last 2 minutes. So it's, you know, just whatever comes to mind. You feel this is the time, this is when you're going to do it.
496 career wins. Usually you don't talk much about personal goals, but approaching 500 now has to be a special feeling personally. That's quite an honor.
Well, that's true. It's 500, that's a lot of games, and that's not all of them that they count, because you know, all of the games that we've won against the foreign teams and so forth, that isn't even entered the record. And I really passed the 500 mark a long time ago, but it's not official. And this will be a nice one if we can get it. I think we will before the year's over.
Well, if Oregon State defeats Stanford in California and then defeats the University of Washington in Washington State, that 500th win will come on the road. Thanks for joining us. Remember, next week and in the weeks after, we'll be on the air at 6:30 on Wednesday night. And we hope you join us for The Ralph Miller Show.
Basketball time!